Average is the enemy, is that you want to be better than average. Average performance hinders long-term career growth. Average results lead to stagnation in your career, in your life, in everything you're doing. Do I want the life of the person offering me advice? They refuse to believe that something is possible, are happy to tell you why what you want to do. The natural negative criticism that the average person has when it comes to trying something new, trying something different, and trying to be better than the average person. Welcome, everyone, to the Close More Sales podcast. On today's episode, we are going to get specific about handling criticism and dealing with unsolicited advice throughout your sales career. This episode is going to focus on shifting your mindset to make sure you are immune from negative feedback that doesn't serve you and that you're able to capitalize on the feedback that does. So whether you're new to sales or you've been at this for years, learning how to filter advice, how to filter criticism so that it either doesn't affect you in any way, shape, or form, or you can get a nugget out of it that you can use effectively to close more sales is huge and crucial to success continuing on the journey of your career. Why listen to this show? What's the purpose of it anyway? Our purpose is to empower sales professionals and entrepreneurs to push themselves to grow, achieve unimaginable success without burning out, and ultimately transform their lives. I'm Ian Ross, and I am obsessed with all things sales. And I work with teams across the country, across the English-speaking world at this point, to make more money by asking better questions. The most proven path to achieving financial freedom is maximizing your earning potential. And a sales role is the lowest barrier with the highest possible ceiling for entry onto that path. Anyone can become a killer salesperson with the right techniques, mindset, and consistency. Everything we cover on this podcast is geared toward one thing: helping you close more sales so that you can live the life that you want. Now, this is still a relatively new podcast, so if you get any value from this episode today, which I am fairly confident you will, please don't keep it a secret. Follow, subscribe, all that jazz. Leave a comment on YouTube or review where you listen to podcasts, and tell us what it is you got out of the show. Because here's the thing. If you have conversations where how well you speak determines how much money you can make, you are in a sales role, whether you want to admit it or not. So if you'd like to get better at what you do, text CLOSE to 33777. CLOSE to 33777. And we'll see if we can help you out along the process. So, on to the topic today: handling criticism and unsolicited advice, let's say. Being able to deal with advice that can undermine your confidence, your decision-making process, and just basically hits you in the chest, prevents you from being effective in some way, shape, or form. My underlying message, this is going to be a little bit of a shorter episode because I don't need to go into too much detail here. I just really want to make sure this point hits home. If you are getting criticism from someone in your life, someone who's a family member, a friend, someone you grew up with, a friend of a friend, someone else at work, if you don't want to live the life of the person who is giving you that criticism, if you wouldn't trade your existence, trade places with the person giving you that advice, their opinion should hold way less weight. This is huge, and most people don't actively do this. They might have processed this idea, but they don't actually implement it because they let criticism from people whose lives they would never want impact them in a negative capacity. And it's very sad to see. It's a super disappointment. So what's a classic example of this? If your best friend growing up, if he started some e-commerce dropshipping business and crashed and burned and wasn't able to have success with it, and then you tell him you're going to start some type of online business, and he tells you, no, bro, you don't want to do that. It's impossible. It's all a scam. It won't work. Why on earth would you take the advice from someone who couldn't make the business work? So many people are so focused on this idea of having resistance to trying anything because of the way they perceive messages, what they've been through in their life, the skepticism that they naturally have with social media and the way people who are successful are portrayed on the internet, that they refuse to believe that something is possible. And they will basically let that negativity radiate out their pores and are happy to tell you why what you want to do, why your job right now, selling whatever you're selling, while that business you want to start, how the lifestyle you want as an entrepreneur is impossible. They will tell you how it doesn't work because they knew someone had failed for, they couldn't get it done. Oh, all those people I've seen, they seem like scam artists, right? This is the natural negative criticism that the average person has when it comes to trying something new, trying something different, and trying to be better than the average person, right? The main focus of this podcast is not to talk about why you want a mentor or something like that. Plenty of places you can find that messaging anywhere. But what is the value of having someone who is better than you at what you are trying to do right now, or has gotten farther than where you are right now? At least when you have a mentor, someone whose life you would want to emulate in some capacity. It might not be their home life. It might not be every aspect of their existence, but something regarding their business, their day-to-day, is worth listening to. It's worth pursuing for you as an individual. You want to find those people in your life, whether it's someone at your company, whether it's someone you have to pay to get in the room, I don't care, because you can take their advice seriously. This is a huge problem for so many people trying something new, trying to sell on commission only, right? This opportunity where they can actually make doctor money having conversations with strangers all day, people have skepticism about. People in your family, no, you don't want to do that. Oh, no, salespeople are slimy. You don't want to do that. This is just BS. You want to be able to avoid that criticism and let it bounce off you. So there are 3 key questions that I ask myself if I am hearing unsolicited criticism. This is all, or even solicited. Even if I'm like, hey, what do you think of this thing? Or what is your opinion? I always run it through these 3 main things. These 3 main lenses is how I process criticism. So number 1, do I want the life of the person offering me advice? This is why I work with Steve Trang. I don't want him to see this because it'll get to his head. But a lot of the reason I consider Steve Trang an incredible mentor is because I really admire the way he set up his life and how he runs his business and how he goes through his day-to-day and how he works. I am aligned with him. And so if he criticizes some aspect of my training, some aspect of messaging, something that I'm doing on this podcast, I am taking that to heart. It doesn't mean I immediately implement it, but that is criticism or advice that I take seriously because he is to an extent where I want to go in some aspects of his life. And that to me is worth listening to. That's the first lens I filter everything through. The second one is this criticism that I'm hearing something I was already concerned about? Is this something you had kind of hoped wouldn't get brought up and then it is? So the example here, this happens all the time. When I was writing, I used to write. I wanted to be a novelist when I was in my early 20s. And one of the things that I processed at the time, I was in a writers group. And in that writing group, someone said, referring to my manuscript, I had this line that I'll never forget this. There's an old lady in this town in Maine, and she walks around at night in her nightgown, and I described the imagery as like a ghost woman walking around at night. She walks around in a nightgown, a white nightgown. And someone in my group gave the advice of, you know what it should be? That should actually be really a ghost. And when the protagonist goes to confront that ghost, it turns out that the ghost is the love interest in the book. I bring this up for a very particular reason, because I wasn't writing a ghost story. This was not a supernatural book. This is a slice of life book, like a coming of age tale. So it doesn't matter what that person says to me because they're going through a lens that I would never have been interested in. If the criticism is, oh, you should turn the ghost woman into an actual ghost, that's not something I was considering. But if I hear, hey, this character doesn't really, I don't believe that she would do this. And if I was secretly already concerned that I hadn't done enough to give the reader reason to believe that the character would take this action, and then someone points it out, that is advice I want to take seriously because it was already on the back of my mind. It makes sense to me. It doesn't seem like it's out of left field. So that's the artistic writing equivalent. You can figure out how you can apply this to your own sales conversations. If someone's telling you you're not calling enough, and that was your secret concern because you know you're not calling enough, that's advice that's maybe worth taking seriously. That criticism is worth confronting directly because you were already concerned about it. So that's the second lens with which I filter through advice and criticism. The third one is, does the point that was made to me, when I hear it, do I have a aha, of course, the second it's said to me? This is another version of that first one. It's not just I was secretly considering it. Maybe it's something that wasn't on my mind at all. But the moment I hear that criticism or that suggestion, it makes sense to me immediately. How could I have not realized this all along? It wasn't on my radar, like the character who wasn't believable in her actions in the second example I gave. But now that I hear it, I understand it immediately. It clicks like that. An example I can give there is that for Steve Treg and I were working on a checkout page on a website, and the criticism was the button to click order was grayed out until someone put in the rest of their information. And the criticism of that setup was that when someone first goes to that page, it looks like a dead landing page because it was grayed out. Rather than highlighting where they should type in, it's the thing to click order was gray until someone typed it in. So the first look on that page was, oh, it looks like this is a dead checkout page. And that was hurting our conversions. That was a aha, of course moment, because as soon as I heard that, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I didn't realize that. That wasn't on my radar. I'm not good at building web pages. But that very idea, that makes sense immediately. That's advice that is also worth considering. That and the other lenses are all I need to filter through when I'm trying to consider taking advice. Because most of the people that would be criticizing me, whether it's on social media, or YouTube comments, just people I meet at meetups or something, chances are they're pretty close to average, right? And average is the enemy. I want to emphasize this point. The average salesperson, while they probably make more than your average, undergrad graduate, they deal with frustration, they deal with burnout all the time, and they're always blaming external factors. Average salespeople are constantly experiencing these high levels of stress and exhaustion. They point fingers and point blame. It's the market that's the problem. Oh, my prospect lied to me. That's the problem. Oh, it's the company policy that's hurting me. They blame everyone else for their failures. This mindset is toxic. It's poison because it prevents you from taking control of your own success. External blame leads to a lack of growth and improvement. Understanding this common pitfall is the first step. It's not the only step. It is the first step to rising above mediocrity. The reason I bring this up and get so passionate about it is self-accountability is everything in sales. Part of the reason I love sales so much is because of what an amazing vehicle it is for self-accountability. So if you are in a sales role, if you are having conversations where how well you speak determines how much money you can make, aka a sales role, and you are not embracing that you are the reason the deal didn't close, that it's your fault for not getting it done, even when chances are it probably wasn't your fault. But if you're not trying to take self-accountability, you are never going to rise above mediocrity. Successful salespeople take responsibility for the results, the good and the bad. Self-accountability, by its very nature, involves reflecting on your actions and your outcomes regularly, like not just at the end of the year or the end of a quarter. It means daily. It means owning your mistakes and learning from them. This approach, it fosters just this continuous cycle of personal and professional development. You get better. You get better consistently over time. By being accountable, you're setting yourself up for improvement and success. The average person fears self-accountability like the frickin' plague. It's the scariest thing in the world to them. They don't want to blame themselves for why something's not working. Oh, you know why I'm not in a relationship? Women are bad these days. Why am I not in a relationship? Oh, I hate men these days. There's no good men. They're all taken. All the women are on OnlyFans, or they're spoiled. There's no one no, it's your fault. Take some damn responsibility for whatever anything is wrong in your life. Stop blaming external factors and start trying to be better than the average person. Average performance hinders long-term career growth. Average results lead to stagnation in your career, in your life, in everything you're doing. This is not to say that I want to insult someone who maybe feels average, but if you are content with average, I think you are content with mediocrity, which simply put, I don't want you anywhere near me, and I certainly don't want to be taking your advice or soliciting your feedback. You will prevent me from achieving the highest role of success by listening to you for someone who doesn't take accountability when something isn't working. And people can have little bursts of this, right? Someone who's usually self-accountable might be in a bad mood, and then suddenly they write a crazy comment on social media, and in hindsight, they wouldn't have written that if they were in a better mood. That can happen, okay? But I don't take you seriously when I see your comment like that, and I never will. Long-term mediocrity will damage your reputation within an industry because mediocrity leads to burnout. It leads to quitting that job and going somewhere else, and still not getting the results and quitting that and going somewhere else. Striving for excellence opens up more opportunities. It opens up the ability to advance your career, to jump up 2 levels instead of just tiptoeing up a ramp, which is how most people improve. This is how you can motivate yourself to aim higher, is by not listening to average critiques. Exceptional salespeople choose to differentiate themselves. They continuously seek knowledge and enhancement of their skills. Okay? They build strong, lasting relationships with their clients, even if you are in a highly transactional role. You want to build a relationship. They demonstrate resilience, adaptability in changing situations. Oh, marketing's changed? Good. Now I can get better at outreach. Oh, like we're not able to do phone outreach anymore? Good. Now I get to learn copywriting to reach out via email. They are adaptable and will make it work anywhere. Why do companies want to hire top sales performers? Because top sales performers will perform no matter where they are and what is happening. That is the very nature of being a top earning sales professional. I've described this before, that salespeople are the athletes of the business world. I think it was Jeb Blunt I first heard make this point. And I could not agree more. So if you want to be an exceptional athlete, you need to set yourself apart from average. One of the ways you can make sure you do that is not taking the advice of someone in your life who you would not trade places for, because they're average, if not worse than, okay? Pursue excellence in everything you're doing in your sales activities, right? That involves planning. It involves reflecting on what worked and what didn't, and just a deep understanding, deeper than you ever need to tell your prospect, of your products, of what's going on in the market, of the concerns that your prospects are having, at their hesitations for wanting to move forward. You should have a deeper understanding of the hesitations of your prospects than they do. If you are content at a script and a week of training at a company, congratulations. Here's my stamp of mediocrity for you. Average is the enemy, because it means you are struggling. That's just what it means in sales. And you're still making decent money, getting paid commission compared to the average job. But what the hell are you doing in sales where we have all this stress, all this pressure to perform, if you're not trying to be better than average? Okay? Excellence leads to higher client satisfaction as well, and loyalty. Being in pursuit of this is everything for your own performance and your career trajectory. This is the thing to think about, is like, how can I actually take accountability for when something goes wrong and get better? And the easiest way to make sure you don't let yourself get dragged down is not taking the advice from people whose lives you don't want, and hearing advice that you weren't already considering, so it means nothing to you, and doesn't give you that aha moment of, wow, I didn't think of it that way. I'm not saying stay stuck in your ways, because your ways might be average right now or a little bit above. Maybe you have little bursts of momentum and performance, but over a long time horizon, you flitter back down to just above average. If that is the case, you should definitely be taking advice all the time, but only from people who are where you want to be. Ignore unhelpful criticism. It means nothing to you. And I've seen pretty harsh talking about this, and I can seem pretty harsh to people in my life when they give me unsolicited criticism. But if I don't want your life, I don't take your advice seriously about what I'm trying to do, because you have no reason, you've given me no reason to believe your negative feedback is to my benefit. So to the people listening, stay committed to your vision, regardless of whatever obstacles you're getting. Use any criticism you get, put it through that lens. Is it from someone who some aspect I would trade in terms of what their life is like? Their performance, their money, their life at home, their hobby, their physical attributes. You want something of their life. That's when it's worth starting to think about. If they don't have that, then I already think, man, I was already afraid that someone would call this out, but now that I hear it, yeah, I know this is something I need to do. What's a perfect example of that? If you are morbidly, aggressively overweight and obese, and you know if you just lost just a little bit of weight, maybe people would take you a little bit more seriously, and then someone calls it out, maybe it's worth taking advice on, because you already had that hesitation. But it's such a minor point in terms of sales performance. It's only if it matters to you, if you already had that inclination, okay? Believe in your own potential, that you need to be exceeding average performance. This is really what I just want to instill in you, is that you want to be better than average. If you hear, when you're interviewing for a new company, the average salesperson has this close rate, everything in your body should be trying to do better than that rate. And it should be like that for anything you do in your sales role, okay? This is just how you actually get good. I've been asked multiple times, like a lot of times, how did I get good at sales so quickly? I became obsessed with it. I was thinking about it when I was like going to bed. I dreamt about it. I woke up thinking about it. All I care about is getting better at this. I was just talking to Steve Strang about this, I think yesterday. I am not actually that competitive a person for most of the things in my life. I am not competitive about pickleball. I'm running an ultra marathon tomorrow at the time of recording this. So by the time this is out, I will have already run it. Hopefully I'm not dead. But I'm not competitive with the other people there. I'm competitive with myself about that. The only thing I have any real competition about are other sales trainers. I'm hyper-focused on this one thing. That's how I got good at sales. I used my own resilience to put up armor around myself, and I don't have to, like someone tells me online, oh, how dare you cold call me? I don't want your life. It means nothing to me. Oh, that's a terrible technique. You're not good at sales. I'm not going to take that seriously. Pay attention to where you are getting that criticism and who is saying it and what is it about their life that you would want to absorb. And this, to end on the note here, like, a positive attitude will significantly impact your overall success. So when you let criticism get you down, you see a comment online, something said from your manager, someone you should be trying to impress potentially, that breaks your heart, makes you sad, and now you get bummed out, you are actively hurting yourself by letting that get you down, rather than focusing on what you can do to improve, to not get that criticism in the future, right? Continuous learning and self-improvement keeps you ahead of what's ever going on in the industry. It enhances your skills and your sales technique, your ability to sell no matter what's going on in the market. If you are constantly trying to get better, you are better than interest rates. You are better than the marketing side of your company. You get to be better than the lowest common denominator, which is like providing you leads or something like that, right? You get to be better. So this is how you do that, is you don't take advice seriously, or you don't take unsolicited advice from people if it doesn't fit within those three lenses seriously at all. Just please embrace this point. If there's nothing else you get from this episode, from me just rambling, because I didn't do a lot of preparation for this, because I wanted to just make this point from the heart, is that trying to get better is a lifelong pursuit, and you need to embrace that. And the way to embrace that is to think, okay, if my dad's telling me that this is not a real career, even if I love my father, this is not about my dad, I'm just talking to the general populace here. Even if I love my dad, do I really want his life? Was he a successful salesperson? Right? You could think this. And if he wasn't, then what do I do when I treat, how do I treat this person? Someone who I care about. To me, it's the equivalent of if I had a little nephew who was 5 years old and he gave me advice on my sales technique or my messaging online or whatever I'm doing. It's not that I go, screw you, I don't care about your advice. I would never say that to a 5-year-old. What I would say is, thanks so much for the advice. I appreciate that. And then I change nothing because the 5-year-old doesn't know what he's talking about. I can still love the 5-year-old. I can still love my dad. I can still love my uncle. I can still love my best friend growing up. Doesn't affect whether or not I adore that person and want to protect them and provide for them. But what's key? Their advice did not change how I spend my time. It did not change my mindset or my belief that I am getting better every day, or the belief that that sales is a noble profession and what I am doing is in pursuit of that nobility. So if you want to get better, if you want to make sure when you're getting negative feedback, that you're surrounded by people, other successful individuals who can offer constructive feedback that you could actually use, who are also going through the same challenges you are going, what you need to do is surround yourself with those types of people. And those types of people, and if you're still not massively above average yet, will need you to pay to join the room. I know this seems like a self-serving statement. It kind of is. But this is true. Whether you work with us or you work with someone else, if you are not yet someone who can provide value, you probably need to pay to be around the people who actually can give you good feedback. So figure out whatever it is that you need to do to get in those rooms so that you can be surrounded by people who you consider better than you, whose advice is worth taking. And then start implementing that advice, that criticism. Take it to heart carefully, but don't let it get you down. Don't let it hurt your self-worth. Because if someone who's far better than you criticizes a closing question you ask, even if it was your closing question that you came up with and you were so proud of it, they're not actually criticizing you as a person. They are criticizing a technique. So detach your self-worth from your activity and just understand that when you get criticism from a mentor, from someone else who's crushing it, they're simply focusing on what you're doing, okay? Stay true to your vision and push past average. Create a daily routine and have in that routine foster productivity, foster growth. Plan your day to have specific goals and tasks. Allocate time for learning, for self-improvement, just getting better. And then please reflect on your day's achievements. Reflect on where you can improve, what you can do better, and be consistent. Consistency in your routine is what leads to sustained success. I say at the start here, I say the same thing every single time, right? And I say it for a reason. I say anyone can become a killer salesperson with the right techniques, mindset, and consistency. It is just those three things. So this was a mindset episode, right? The techniques, I've done episodes on that in the past. Or you could sign up to our training and get more help with those techniques, the actual how of what you need to be doing in terms of getting people to want to take action. But the mindset part, this is the idea here. Make sure you embrace improving and just brush off criticism like it was from a 5-year-old nephew. Thanks so much for that. Yeah, have a good day. But it doesn't affect me because he's 5 years old. And then finally, consistency. This is the single hardest thing as a sales trainer and a mentor to many salespeople for me to deal with, because it has to come from you. This has to come from you. I cannot make you consistent. I actually can't. No matter what I try, what I tell you, no matter how motivational I try and get, whether I talk really specific about exactly how to plan out goals or I talk big picture about how to think about what your life's going to be like in 10 years, the consistency has to come from you. No one can give that to you. No one can make you be consistent. Consistency has to come from within. So I don't care if you have to set short-term goals that lead to your long-term objectives. I don't care how small the wins are that you have to celebrate to keep yourself motivated, but find some type of balance, some type of equilibrium where you can be pushing to get better and are not burning out. And then do that consistently. Do it consistently. Connect with other positive people who inspire you, who make you want to get better, who make you want to brush off average and laugh in its freaking face. And remind yourself daily what your why is. What is the reason behind your efforts? Why are you trying to get better? Why are you trying to make buku bucks having sales conversations every single day? If you don't have a strong why, you will not be as resilient. You won't build up a strong mindset over time, and you're going to let criticism affect your self-worth. Okay, and that's just the wrong way to go about this. Average is the enemy. Average people are probably criticizing you right now. Thank you, 5-year-old nephew. I don't need the advice. Have a good day. You can build this mental immunity to strive to be above average. You absolutely can, but you have to be consistent with these practices. The problem with motivational talks like this is that when you finish this, whether I'm in your ears at the gym or you're driving to an appointment or you're seated at home watching me on a smart TV, the problem with this is that you might feel super motivated right after the episode ends, but then you fall back into old habits because you're going to think about the criticism you might get for trying harder, for working on a weekend, for not traveling to that, distant family wedding, instead staying at home to work. You're thinking about all these other things and you're no longer consistent. If you were tired of not feeling like you can trust the advice given to you, but you want to get better, you want to just crush average and brush off mediocrity, text CLOSE to 33777. I want to take your sales game to the next level. I want to do it together. Because if you're willing to do the work to be consistent, we can give you the techniques and we can talk to you about the mindset. You just have to show up. I'm Ian Ross. This has been the Close More Sales Podcast.